Hey guys, it's Lisa back with another video for you for Lisa Wise Designs. And today we're getting started with part 2 of our Fresh Air mini album, which looks like this. It's a 6 3/4 by 6 3/4 mini album that holds 40 4x6 photos and some smaller photos. So where did we leave off? Let's see. We had built the mini album. Use our tie back, put this together, and so we're going to start from here. If you want to pick up the cutting guide, the tutorial only, or if you'd like a kit that has everything you need to put together this project, then those links are listed down below in the details underneath this video. So we're getting started on part 2, starting on page number 7 at the very top, all right? So we're starting on the outside of the mini album. This is the inside, so this is the outside where you see the large piece of tie back, and I'm just going to make sure that I have burnished really well between the two cover pieces. All right, and when I close it, I want to make sure that I'm folding really well. I want to get as much width as I can on the spine piece, so I'm just going to fold that and kind of make it as big as it will get by pushing down on it just like so. All right, that'll give us the room that we need and will give us enough space between the spine for it to fold well. All right, so grab your sticky tape, whatever two-sided tape that you're using. I do recommend that you use tape on this and not wet glue, but that's just personal preference, because I really want end-to-end coverage. What I think I'll do here, what I normally do, is I'm going to call this the front of my album, and I'm going to start here at the first, where the spine meets here. Sorry, it's kind of early in the morning. I got to get my brain working. I don't drink coffee to get started in the morning, but I do like a good Diet Coke, and I haven't had any caffeine, so I'm just warming up just by talking, I guess. So what I like to do is, like I said, on something like this, you need end-to-end coverage, and that's why I like to use the tape instead of glue, because I have made the mistake of just putting a little bit of tape, thinking, oh, it doesn't need to be that much tape, does it? Isn't that a waste? But no, then I got bubbles underneath it as I was turning, you know, over the years of use, people turning the pages and I guess just sitting out. Yeah, it bubbled up. I can tell which ones I did that to. So anyway, so I thought I'd pass that along to you. So to me, this is definitely not a waste of tape. And I'm going to go to my smaller pieces and do almost end-to-end coverage here. Okay. Now we're going to burnish well, because the first thing that this tape sticks to is what it's going to stick to. So if you burnish well, it'll stick to the album if it's your finger or if it's dust. Whatever the first thing it touches, it's going to stick. All right, where's my pokey tool? Okay. I hope everyone's having the good beginning of the summer. My little one that has come to live with me, my granddaughter, she is 5 and she has been in preschool now for 3 years. So she is graduating today. She's super excited. We're going to get her some flowers and a couple little gifts. She is over the moon. She's been singing the coronation song from the movie Frozen for her graduation day. So cute. All right. So now we've got sticky all over this front cover. Okay, so now we're in the middle of page 7, and it's going to tell us how to use the chipboard spacers that we made. Let me grab that scoreboard in order to get this set up. And to kind of space it, make it easier on ourselves. So I'm using my scoreboard upside down. So we're going to use this area right here on the bottom right hand corner. And I'm going to get my 2 1-inch spacers that we cut. Okay. Like I said, we're the middle of 7. Place the spacers on the right side and the bottom so we form like this backwards L shape. And we're going to place the cover flush to those pieces. So right here. So this is what it should look like. So that's going to give us 1 inch on the side and 1 inch on the bottom here. Okay. So flipping on over to H, we're going to grab that piece of cardstock, or pattern paper, excuse me, that we cut out earlier with the little sunshines. And I made sure to go ahead and ink all the way around the edges, even though you're probably only going to see a couple of these edges once we fold it over. Right? So now we're going to place this right in the corner so that it has 1 inch overhang on the right side and the bottom. I'm just going to make sure that this is going to be exactly where I want it. Yeah, just going to make sure that it wasn't going to go over this piece right here where we're going to fold. Don't even trust my own measurements. There we go. So it should land right there, right where the fold is. So that's what this should look like. This is what it would look like on the inside. So you've got your overhang here on 3 sides. So I think that makes it really, really easy to line up by using these spacers and using your scoreboard. All right, so now we're going to do the same thing, or about the same thing, on the back. Put this to the side and go ahead and put the tape on. So this time we can put the tape all the way from one end to the other, and I am at the bottom of page 8. Let me look at this little picture and see if I did it separate, and I think I did. But there's no reason to. You go all the way over. So like I say, I like to go around the edges with the smaller tape to make sure that I can get it all the way to the edge, and then fill it in with whatever size tape that you have. I've got tape all the way from 1/8 of an inch in my arsenal all the way to 6 inches. But I think I mentioned this last time. The 6-inch tape really gets away from me quickly, only because when you start rolling it out, if you're not exactly straight, it gets way off by the time you get to the end, and it's hard to come back from. So this size seems to work out really well for me. Let's see what it is. It's 1.5 inches. It's a little bit more manageable than those huge rolls. I even let my mother use the huge roll one time and told her, I said, you probably want to try this out first before you go invest in that tape, because it's not cheap. And she agreed with me. There we go. And maybe the most important part here is making sure we burnish down really well. And if anybody's wondering, who's met my mother at a conference or so, she is doing really well. My mom and dad are both doing really, really well. Very, very thankful that they still have very good health. Moving on to page 9 at the top, add a strip of tape to the left side of the sun paper. Okay. So right here on the edge of the sun paper, I'm going to add, this is 3/8 of an inch tape. I wouldn't go more than 1/2 inch. Okay. There. That down. Now we can remove all the tape backing. So don't feel bad if you work on a project and have to go back and look at your instructions. You see, I wrote it and I still have to do it because I wrote it probably a month ago as I was making it the first time. And try to give my tips and tricks as I'm going to myself to remember where I am in the project. You know, those of us over 50, we have to really think about that type of stuff. All right, so now we've got our tape backing removed. Now we're going to get that yellow piece that we cut out earlier. It's here. Make sure we've got it on the right orientation, so they should line up. Okay. So all we're going to do is we're going to overlap this piece onto the sun paper by the width of this tape. Should be pretty easy to line up because you already have a straight edge, and then you already know where that 3/8 inch tape is. Just go ahead and start from here. I'm gonna hold it up and then work around the spine as I go, trying to give myself a little bit of room before I press it all the way down, so that hopefully it'll keep the cardstock, I keep saying cardstock, but it's really pattern paper, from that tearing in the center. But if it does that, don't worry about it. I have got cracks in my first one, and I just use ink and go over it, and then don't worry about it. I always think it looks good anyway if it looks a little distressed. Just gonna go slow and try and break those fibers of the paper. So then you've got about an inch, 1.25 on each side, top and bottom. That's pretty easy. I like that. I like that way of doing it. Just slowly working those so that we can turn and hopefully not get much cracking. So far so good. I think when you hold it up as you're putting your paper around, it does seem to help. Nothing's 100% foolproof though, because paper is paper. It's fibrous, right? So you do have a little bit of room here when you start folding. It's pulling away a little bit, but that's okay. That's kind of what we want to happen. We want to go ahead and get that to get started. What's the word? I don't know. It's okay. All right, so now here we are on middle of page 10. We're going to go ahead and put tape on the edge of the pattern paper. Let me get where you can see me here. So we're going to put, I'm using 3/8 inch tape. We're going to put it close to the chipboard, like right up against the chipboard, all the way around. And then we'll do another set of tape close to the edge of the pattern paper. Look at me, I finally learned the word pattern paper instead of cardstock. So putting the books together with tape also helps. If you make a mistake, you can use undo, and then you're able to take it apart, because if you use liquid glue, which is faster and cheaper, but when you use that, you're just out of luck. You really can't take it apart. There's nothing that's going to help that. So we'll go ahead here and burnish really well. And put strip on the very edge all the way around. In a minute, we're going to miter the four corners and put the book, basically the book will be together, or it'll at least be covered. And you'll need to think about what type of tool that you have or that you want to use to miter the corners. It can be anything from a ruler to one of the fancy bookbinding tools that's online, or some of the tools that's made just for us mini album makers that's on Etsy. And I'll show you a couple of different ways that you can do that. All right. I have bought more than one thing in the years trying out different tools. A lot of them are pretty inexpensive. You know, $10, $15, $20 or so. Not, I mean, too terribly bad. Some of them are very expensive, the bookbinding tools, you know, up to $100. Make sure I've got enough tape there. All right, so we're at the bottom of page 10. And here's under my desk here some of the different things I have bought over the years. There's probably even more. These are the ones that I still have. This was the very first one that I got. PerfectTrimRuler.com. I don't know if any of these are still in business because it's been years since I bought it. This was one made to trim the edge of the chipboard depending on how high your chipboard is, but I found it pretty difficult to figure out how to place and then cut, but that's about how you use it. You've got these corners here you would line up depending on how high your chipboard is, depends on the corner that you use, and then you trim that piece off. This one is called the Right Angle Tool, Darlene by Heart. I think she's on Etsy. This one to me is the easiest one to use because it's just got a right angle that you just butt up against your chipboard and trim. That's it. Same way with this one. I think this was the second one I got, ColorwayArts.com. It works the same way, and I think it's perfectly fine, except this side right here is shorter than what I like to use for the inch that's on the sides, where this one covers the whole angle. Does that make sense here? Where this one only covers right there. So anyway, you can always use a ruler if you don't have any of these tools, and you want to make sure that you're cutting about 1/8 of an inch away from the chipboard. So you would put your ruler right in the corner. You would find if you have one that has the 1/8 of an inch all the way down, line that up and trim, okay? I'm gonna use this one just because it's so easy. And as many albums as I make, really is worth every penny. So this is what you will have. You will have about 1/8 of an inch away at an angle right there, so that when we fold this up, there's not gonna be any naked corners showing chipboard. No naked corners. Nobody wants that. If you're using black cardstock, which is what a lot of people use to wrap, then if you have any chipboard that shows, you can always just use a Sharpie. Won't be exact, but it will make it a lot less noticeable. With this, we're using a white background, so I'm not sure if you would use a white paint pen. Will be the only thing I can think of at the moment. But anyway, this is, once again, Darlene by Heart, D-A-R-L-E-N-E, and I think that's on Etsy. All right, so now let's see, that takes us through the bottom of 10. So now we're going to be at the top of 11, and we're going to fold in the long sides first. Before I take off my tape liner, the backing, I just like to go along the edges and go ahead and get started with the fold at the end of the chipboard. Just kind of working it on my table, like so. And then start working it its way up here with the liner on. Start training that paper, we like to say. Now the way I like to do it is folding the long side in first. So I'm just going to start at the bottom, take off my 2 strips here of the tape liner. Before I push this down into place. Oh no, sorry, I'm trying to get ahead of myself. Let's do the long sides first. Okay, what I like to do is start on the ends and kind of pull and then pull toward the center. All right. Leaving myself, if we have any bit of room or any bit of pucker that kind of comes up in the middle, we'll go down into the spine pieces, the pieces that between the spine. So I'm pulling, but I'm slightly moving toward this way. You see how I've got a little bit here? So I'm going to push that down and pull this in and push it down. And that gives me a tiny, tiny bit of space when I did that to kind of help when I'm closing my book. I hope that made sense. We're going to do it again though. Okay, so for now, of course, pattern paper will tear easily, so I'm just going to make sure I'm not using quite as much pressure here as I did originally with the tie-back. All right, same process here. Start pulling this paper up. I'm going to start on the edge, and I'm slightly moving, holding it, moving it toward the spine piece. Same thing here, moving it this way toward the spine piece. Ever so slightly. Now if I've got a little bit of extra, I'll start working it here toward the opening between the spine here. Okay. Don't have as much give on this side, so I'm just going to make sure I'm not going to tear a hole in it. Okay, that's not too bad. Really burnish it down. Okay, so now we're in the middle of page 11. Oh, sorry, I didn't know my phone was on. Someone's bringing me a package. Got to love that. So right here, this tiny little piece right here, you can see, we're going to push this down, this tiny triangle, we're going to push that down into the tape as we wrap the sides up to try to make this have as little bulk as possible and not to see the chipboard. That's what that 1/8 of an inch away did for us, is now we can push this down into the tape. Let me show you. Right here, that little piece, push it down, just smash it, and then we're going to pull this over, and that way you're covering that chipboard so you don't see the edges. So if you cut your pattern paper too short, you don't give yourself the 1/8 of an inch, that's where you're going to see those little naked corners. And then I'm just going to pull this straight in. There we go. That's pretty good corners, right? Pretty good. If you find that you've got too much sticking out that you don't like, you can just trim those off. Because you've already got your corners covered up. All right. Don't forget to kind of smash this down into the tape. There. Giving you easier access to pull this over. I'm going to pull it pretty tight and straight over. Now I like to go over the tops and the sides here and kind of flatten this out toward the book, kind of give it a finished look. And then ink the edges if you so choose, and you know I do. I so choose. Edges. Let's see, did I get all of them? No, I didn't do this side, I don't think. Doesn't look like it. Yep, I've already done that one. All right, and I'm just going to kind of work here the spines. You can see mine is not exactly straight, but I am not going to stress about it. No one's ever gonna notice. I like this look though, where it's the front and then this wraps all the way around instead of having 3 different sheets. The only thing is now you just need something to join these up so it doesn't look such like a stark difference, and that's why we have this little piece that we cut, and that's next on our list here to do at the bottom of page 11 is to take this 1/4 of an inch strip and we're going to glue that right here and wrap it around. Let's see, there we go. I'm going to have to take a sip of some soda, sorry. Oh, I absolutely needed that. All right, let's see if I've got some smaller tape. I'm pretty sure I do. Something about caffeine as you get older. We used to go to Girl Scout camp out in the middle of the woods for a weekend, and it was when my daughter was preteens, maybe, teenager. And every one of us that was used to drinking a soda or coffee would forget that we needed to bring that with us. And there was nowhere to get it, right? It's like nobody's leaving camp. And we would all have a headache if we didn't have something. So I learned after the first trip to sneak me a soda in my bag. I didn't care if I had to drink it hot, as long as I didn't get a headache, and as long as those girls didn't see me. Because you know, as soon as they see it, they want one too. Here we go. I don't know why I thought of that. Isn't that strange how things come to you? Flip this over. Yeah, I was a Girl Scout leader or volunteer, so in some capacity, from the time she was in 1st grade till 9th grade, and then she decided she didn't want to do it anymore. You know how life goes. They get so busy with band and other things in school. But it was fun, so fun. So if you want to, you can go ahead and go around the edges with ink. You can wait till later, or you don't have to do that. I'll kind of show you what that looks like if you want to do that piece of it. I don't know if it shows up very well on camera, but you can tell on this side I haven't done it anywhere else. Unless I'm doing like a baby or mini album. Unless I'm doing a baby or wedding memory album where you want things to be, you know, really crisp and clean. I usually ink the edges of all my projects. It's just how I am. Guess that's personal preference. I just think it makes it look shabby chic. Is that, hey, what do you call it? And then I'll even do the edges here. And then if your cardstock cracks, definitely do your edges there. I'll show you on my first one here where it cracked a little bit. Can you see here? And I just inked the edges. It's okay. It's not a deal breaker for me. But I think the way to keep from doing that is when you're wrapping around here is be in the upright position as you go around the corner, and that's really, really going to help that issue. Because this one I did a better job of standing it up as I was turning it, and it did not crack. Well, as of yet anyway, knock on wood. Let's see where we are here. We're on the 2nd block on page 12, and now we're going to put in the binding system. So we're only going to have one insert, 1 page, whatever terminology you use, and that's why we only got one here, because a lot of our book is going to be on the front and the back covers, and then we're only going to have a small section in the center. But this, like I said, is a really good way if you've never built a mini album to kind of get your feet wet in here. Because we're going to do one later on that's got 6 of these that goes across the binding. It's going to be a fun book, though. It's going to be my Christmas project. I think that's the one I'm going to do that in. Okay, so going to need a pencil or a pen. I'll try to do it in pencil. Hopefully you can see it. So we're gonna lay this binding out with this little binding strip on it, about 1/8 of an inch top and bottom, okay? So you can just kind of eyeball that if you want to, but just kind of make sure it's in the center where you want it. And then I'm just gonna make a pencil mark right there where I can see when I come back in here that that's where I want it to land, okay? And then we're gonna draw a vertical lines on the sides of where we want it to be. So I'm gonna kind of put this down where I can see where the center of my spine is, and then the center of this binding strip. I'm gonna eyeball that to make sure I've got about the same amount here and here, and then put lines on the sides here, like that. So now I've got lines on the side and a line at the top, so then when we take the tape off, we're able to easily come back in here and line this back up, and it should land exactly where we want it to. All right. So flip this over where this little stick out piece at the top is on the bottom. And now let's cover this in tape. So this is another thing that I experimented with on my own one time of not putting tape all over this. I put tape around the edges and left the center, thinking, well, if I have a little bit of extra room and it pops up in the center, that might be a good thing. Then my book will lay flatter when I'm opening it. No, it did not. It actually did not. It actually looked terrible. It started coming apart, and I wound up having to take it apart a few months into its life because it was not going to stay. So I didn't want someone to be looking at it and it fall apart on them, and then they think it's their fault. That would be mortifying for them and me. So I fixed it and did it right. Take off the tape back in here. And then we're going to go back in and we're just going to line back up on those lines that we drew. That gives me a vertical space to go back to and a horizontal. All right. There we go. Here again. I forgot, but I still got time. I'll pull it up a little bit. I'm just going to make sure that I'm folding it as it's going on so that I've got a little bit of room here in the spaces between the spine. Oh, there goes my pencil. Anybody else find too that when you have somebody else in your home that your tools go missing? I don't know if it's just kids or if it's kids and adults, but when I was living by myself for so long, you know, everything stayed in the same spot. I knew where everything was. And now I'll tell you, even the smallest things like pencils and scissors just go missing. It's like, what? Where's my stuff? And then I find them later. I have found things in the weirdest places. Anyway, I guess that's just children, but maybe it could be adults too. I bet husbands walk away with scissors and things. Let me know. Let me know if that's like irks you. Not that it irks me anymore, but it's just kind of like, where is it? Am I going crazy? And my pencil that I couldn't find, I think it was in the last video. Found it. Guess where it was? In my little one's bed, of all places. What? Number one, why is she wanting a pencil? And number two, why is it in her bed? The world may never know. All right, so I'm just gonna easy work this. I'm starting to see a little bit right here cracking. So I'm not gonna go too far, but I do want it to work for me right here. Okay, good. And we got through page 12. We burnished well. Okay, so the next piece we're going to start on 13 is actually adding the pages, but we're about 30 minutes into this video. So I'm going to stop this video. We'll come back and we will be on part 3, and we will start right here on 13. Thank you guys for joining me on this, I guess, long-awaited return to YouTube. I'm really enjoying the teaching and coming up with some different ideas. If you've got any ideas for me, if you've got any suggestions, please let me know down in the comments below, or join our Facebook page. That'll also be linked below. I would love to hear it. Thank you so much, guys, and I'll see you next time. Bye.